Well, guys, this is a video that I have been talking about doing for a while, and it's not going to be a real long video, but then again, I always say that, and then they always wind up being like 15 fucking minutes. So, I, as you guys know, am a fan of frame locks. I love frame locks. They're pretty much my favorite configuration, mainly because of the ease of opening and closing. It's all integral. There's not a lot of moving parts. They're not difficult to disengage, and they allow you to have a flipper. And I really like flipper knives. They have really, basically, they're pretty much the only knives I have that are are all the knives I have except for 4 knives that are in my case of nice. This is crooked. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I'm horrible at this. If Nico was here, he'd have my back on this. It's nice and warm under here. It's actually a warm day, but anyway. So back to what I was saying is, I've always been a fan of frame locks. Frame locks are awesome. I love frame locks. I always have. I did refinish. I posted it to Instagram. I did refinish this. I left a little bit of bling. I left the pivot screw and pocket clip polished, but I just couldn't take that garish over the top bronze. It was just not my style. But any rate, I had for a long time basically said, you know, compression lock, it's just a frame lock or a liner lock on the back. And I never really had looked at it. It just kind of seemed like a gimmicky thing. I really didn't. It was one of those locks that I'm like, you know, it's on the back. Like, how strong can it be? It's, you know, it's got to be awkward and things like that. And then this knife came in. Now, this knife has already been sold. I've got to get it to Ken Robson, one of my faithful customers and followers. Purchased this from me, and I've got to get it sent off to him. And so I needed to do this video. But I got to looking at how this frame lock is constructed. This Spyderco compression lock is constructed. And there's 2 things about it that really strike me as being great for the knife world. You know, one, it's an extremely strong lock compared to what I was thinking. Once I've gotten in there and I've really looked at how it's constructed and all of that, it's to get one of these to fail is up there around the realm of getting a triad lock to fail. It's way up there on the things that you're not going to be able to do. Not easily, anyway. Not without some difficulty. And the other one is the safety involved in use. And this makes me think to, you know, something along the lines of, did I give the access lock a bad rap? So having carried this a while, this Yojimbo 2, and while it's not, this Yojimbo 2 is not like something I could look at and say that it'd be a good EDC knife. It's a very nice knife. But having carried it and used this compression lock, I can see some benefits of it. And so I got to looking at the lock when I first got the knife. I got to looking at how this lock actually works and interfaces and things like that. And I really am not going to try and turn the camera around too much. I might do a little bit so we can zoom in and show you. But basically, this compression lock sits here a lot like a liner lock would, and then it drops in. And it drops across onto the lock face like a liner lock would, or a frame lock for that matter. You can see the frame lock, it drops in, it interfaces with the radius that's on the blade. And then, but the thing that this has for it, if you put enough pressure on the spine of any frame lock, liner lock, I don't care. If you put enough, it's gonna pop over. Now, the fact is, 99% of people are not going to put any of that pressure back there. So, because you're cutting this way, which has been my contention, like, why do you need the triad lock tests where they do the hanging thing? It's not a good test, you know. the spine whack per se. Now the hanging weight, how much weight are you going to put on the spine of that? In all honesty. But when you get to looking at the Spyderco compression lock, you realize that the stop pin that's right there, and then the lock face is down inside. Forget that, to get this to fail, you would have to put so much weight on the back of this that you basically crushed that piece of metal. And now that's not a thin piece of metal. Let's look at it here. We'll measure it in millimeters because I happen to have a out here. It is millimeter, a little bit more than a millimeter of steel, which that doesn't sound like a millimeter is pretty small. We're looking at here 1/16 of an inch is what it is. It's 1/16 of an inch in steel. That is, the piece that drops in there is probably 1/8 of an inch wide. So you have a 1/16 inch piece of steel that you would have to crush between that stop pin and the blade face to get to fail. And it's not going to happen. So the strength is, I look at the strength of it and I'm like, okay, then that meets that thing which has now become the standard, and is that how strong is the lock with the force on the spine of the blade, which I think is a bullshit test. Spyderco built this and it does work that way, but that wasn't what they had intention. That's not what they had in mind. Cold Steel 100% pioneered that. Hey, how strong is it going down? I have news for you. If you're putting pressure on the back of your knife, you're using it wrong. So, I can't argue with the fact that they have a super strong lock, and they've made themselves, they've set that out in the marketplace as kind of like the standard. Because if your knives can do it, why not showcase it? But it's not a real good metric of a lock. Lock should be ease of use, ease of disengagement, and does it hold the blade open for what you need it for while you're working? So, off of my soapbox about that, the compression lock does. It's a very strong lock. It works really well. There's no play. And you've got, instead of just having just the liner lock touching against a radius area where that's the only thing holding it, now it's pinched in between two pieces of metal. You're not going to get it to fail. You probably could, but it'd be really hard. I have a mug that will hold exactly 2 cans of beer. So, there we've talked about the strength of the lock, which I was actually surprised. I got to looking at it and thinking to myself, how strong would that lock be? But once I looked at it and I could realize that it's pinched in there, and to make that fail by pushing on here, you'd have to crumple that piece of steel. So that part, okay, we're good. We're good. It's a strong, strong lock. But the big one that is kind of important that I never really put much thought into until I started dealing with some of the Grimsmo Norsemans and things like that when they come in for sharpening, was the inherent danger that a frame lock puts you in. Now this is my Cold Steel end-tack, or I'm not, Jesus Christ, my Cold Steel. This is my Ferrum Forge end-tack that has been taken back to its original blue with bronze pocket clip, which it had forever. It just, I left the pocket clip polished. At any rate, I am definitely trying to toot the horn on my refinishing. There's some inherent danger that this style lock puts you in, especially when you have knives that are sharp as mine. So you're pushing out and you're pushing down on that blade. If you happen to be a dummy and not get your thumb out of the way, a frame lock puts your thumb and other digits, if you happen to have a weak thumb and you have to, like, I've seen people do that, like, oh, I gotta put my finger in there, and then you've now put your hand in the danger arc of that blade. And I was like, oh wow. Now, I'm getting rid of that because here's the thing, I have gotten so used to, I've got it down to muscle memory, I've gotten so used to it that anytime I ever carried this knife, I would immediately reach for the line, and it's just bothersome. But that takes that out completely. Watch this. Completely out of play. No part. I mean, it'll even close. It'll just drop closed. No part of my body was in the danger arc of this extremely sharp blade. I am sharpness. This knife came, I'm not gonna lie to you, this knife came with one of the best factory edges I've ever seen. It's just not a blade that I would carry. But that compression lock, I don't have to put my hand, look at that. That simple. Boop. You know, sometimes, because it falls real smooth, sometimes it pops back out. But if you're holding it straight up and down, boop. No chance that I am going to, you'd have to be pretty silly to put your hand in front of that blade. So, in retrospect, I kind of gave Spyderco's compression lock, I didn't give it the benefit of the doubt. I didn't realize that it actually was as good as it is. And I feel bad because, you know, I'm a frame lock fanboy. I still will be. I mean, this doesn't change the fact, but can I appreciate the fact that I had looked at other knife locking mechanisms as almost gimmicky and kind of like watchmaking, where it's make it as complicated as possible and then you can sell it that way. But it's really not. It's really not. It's pretty well thought out. It keeps you, it's safe. It is safe. It is strong. And it's just a good all-around lock. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there's locks out there that just, it's too much. The Axis lock is it's a pretty decent lock, but there's too many things that can go wrong with an Axis lock. The Axis lock is too many moving parts, in my opinion. There's too many things that go wrong with springs and clips, you know, the way the springs interface and things like that. This takes the simplicity of this and puts it back here in a manner that is safe, smooth, and strong. In my opinion, to tell you the truth, even though, like I said, I'll still be a frame lock fanboy, this lock is probably stronger than this lock. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to give up my fucking NTAC. This is one of my prized possessions. I love this knife. Can I appreciate the fact that there are better locks out there? Yeah, I can. Does it mean I'm going to change? No, because here's the thing. I'm not going to use this knife in a fashion where I'm going to cause the lock to fail. And that's my main contention with those tests where they do the hanging weight and all those other things. Great, yeah, you got a really strong lock, but what the fuck does your knock? What does it need to be that strong for? I mean, are you trying to lift things? Are you trying to pry things out of other things with the tip of your blade and use the handle and then put something as a fulcrum? Yeah, then maybe if you're that kind of person, one, you should have the proper tools. You should be instructed that a knife is not that kind of tool. But, you know, hey, for those kind of people, yeah, maybe that is a viable thing. The strength of that lock needs to be taken into consideration. For 99% of the people who carry a knife just because it's something cool to do, they're never going to tax a knife to that point. Now, I have been known to put a knife through its paces. There's a reason that my knives get refinished as often as they do. One, because I can put it up on Instagram and show it, and it's the crazy bling, and it looks cool, and all the things that I can do with anodizing and ceramic and refinishes. But besides that, my knives get used constantly. I need to refinish the blade on this. It's got a spot where I have completely worn the finish off the blade. You can definitely see wear, and that wasn't there before. So, compression lock, it's, as Taraz, the crazy Russian hacker, it gets thumbs up from me. Thumbs up for me. It's good. So, but no, I just wanted to get this done because for two reasons. I felt bad that I had kind of, you know, played it off that maybe the compression lock was just a gimmicky thing, and then got it in hand and realized it was good. And the other thing was I got to get it done so I can get this knife off to Ken because he bought it and I need to get it to him. So that's it, guys. I have been having problems. I have another video that I shot earlier about that Sam Morrish knife. I can't seem to get videos to load. I'm going to try them again later, and things like that. So the one I made about the Moorish made knives may already be up by now, but it's just not. I keep getting error loading. So I'm going to try to get that video up, and then I will try to get this one up. So hopefully by the time you guys see this, the Moorish made knives, that Sam Moorish knife that I did a video about, is already up. As always, do not be afraid to get a hold of me about sharpening. I am not that busy that I can't always add more stuff in. Anodizing and refinishing is really fun, and I don't dislike doing it. Prices are, I mean, it's pricey, but if you really want to make a knife uniquely yours, we can do that. We can work together and come up with something. And you know, it's not to be for, you know, like a $30-$40 knife. We're talking, these are things that you want to take a knife that is a fairly, you know, $400 price range knife that still is kind of like everybody has that one. If you want to make it yours specifically, we can do that. I can work with you on that. So, all right, guys, take it easy. I got to get out of here. I've got a bunch of stuff I got to do. It's what is today? Sunday? No, it's Monday. Sorry, today's Monday. Yeah, today's Monday. I've got a bunch of stuff I got to do. I will talk to you guys later. And for you guys that just always see me, you think I'm always wearing the same clothes, my wife does laundry like every day. So I just grab whatever the top shirt is in the drawer, and that's what I got. So there's a lot of videos where people are like, you always wear that same shirt. It's because that's what's in the drawer when I grab it. So, all right, guys, take it easy. I've got a bunch of stuff I got to do. I'm going to try and get some stuff. I've got some other content. I will continue to do live feeds. You guys seem to like it. Not to drag this on video on. I appreciate everything you guys did. We are in the house that Patreon built. My new canopy and light and everything are in here. So you guys that do the Patreon, I appreciate it. If you want to join the Patreon, I'll see if I can put a link in the bottom. Maybe it's easier if I just put the link along the bottom of the video. If not, make sure you go follow Bird's channel. Awesome. I love talking to Bird. It's always fun. So make sure you go talk to Bird. I definitely will put a thing up here, right up here for Bird. That's it, guys. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.